This is the heartbeat of Wrexham. Wrexham Premier Radio brings you the music that moves our community. Stay connected.
Right, here we go.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. 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 I'm going downtown tonight. What's going on?
Now then, on the 4th, 5th and 6th of July, over there in Ashley Hall in Altrincham, comes this year's the Brit Fest. 3 massive days packed with the best of British music and entertainment. And what a fantastic lineup they've got over at the Brit Fest this year. Headliners include Razorlight, UB40 and 10cc. All together with Midge, Thompson Twins, Chesney Hawks, The Doctor and the Medics, wow, Hue and Cry, Johnny H Jazz, Shack Attack, The Fizz and Let Loose. And earlier this week, I caught a word with Lee Murray of Let Loose. Had a lovely chat with Lee. Here he is on the Stage and Screen Show, Wrexham Premier. Every now and again, I get a lovely surprise dropping into my inbox of a guest. And no more so than yourself, my friend, because Let Loose, it seemed to me like you were there, you were here, there and everywhere one minute, and the next minute you disappeared. Is that how it felt your end?
A bit, yeah. In a puff of smoke, we were gone. Yeah. It was weird, yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's one of those questions that I've been asked sort of a few times over the years about, the fact that we were sort of, I think we just had a very, very good record company, PR company, and we had a big sort of first record that took forever to sort of really get some traction, which is crazy for you, and then it kind of hung around for a long time. So we were, I mean, even my mum and dad were like, you were on the telly again. They were sick to death seeing their own son, because we were around quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, we've sort of dissected it over the years and sort of reflected on it, and quite often a lot of people are now sort of saying you didn't sort of fit into the boy bands kind of genre that was around at the time,
right? Which
was, Boyzone and Take That and, Bad Boys Inc. and so on, the 5 dancers and the dance routines and choreography and that sort of thing. We were kind of selling ourselves as more of a pop group. It kind of jarred a little bit, because we were marketed as a boy band. So I suppose that in a way could be part of it, maybe. I don't know. I've kind of become accustomed to it now, and I'm not bitter.
Yeah. Fantastic. But I mean,
anyway, not very bitter.
You don't sound it. You sound grand. I mean, in school, I presume everybody in school at some point they want to be either a footballer or a pop star. Was pop star always on the radar for you, or did you drop into it somehow?
Yeah, it became a sort of an obsession from the age of about, 12 or 13. When I was a kid, growing up in the sort of, I suppose, early 80s, there was nothing really to do apart from, as a boy anyway, young boy, was football and music. Yeah. So all my mates, and it was quite tribal at the time, you were either like a mod, or they used to call you futurist. I was a futurist because I liked sort of synthesizer music and things like that. So you were a goth. But there were no games, or anything like that. There was no internet or anything. So really, as a young boy, you played football and you were either in a local band. And I sort of went the music route, and it became an absolute obsession, really, from the age of about 12. It's in my nature, really, to be a bit obsessive. So I obsessed over my drums, and then I thought, right, how can I make a career out of this? So, yeah, it was a real obsession.
But as you say there, you're the drummer. You're the drummer in Let Loose, and
yes.
I mean, I loved the drums when I was a kid. I mean, I play the drums. I'm not going to pretend I'm anything special, but I enjoy playing it. Let's say that, right?
Yeah.
But anytime I went to a concert or went to see a musical or anything, I was always drawn to the drummer, and I couldn't work it out really. But it was just something that was always. I think in there for me, it's the drummer I found intriguing. Difficult thing to play properly, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely, me too. I mean, I suppose I would say that because I've sort of, managed to make a career out of playing the drums, from when I started, and I still do. I mean, I dabble in all sorts of things, really. You know, I mean, I write songs as well, and I've got a little sort of publishing agreement. I've been signed as a writer in the past, so it's quite broad now, and a lot of drummers do get into songwriting and they play other instruments, although obviously drums are the main instrument.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about it, really. I mean, I teach drums now, and I kind of try to drill down into what it is about drums that makes people that play quite obsessive about it. And it does do things I found out with neuro pathways in your brain, which is why I teach neurodiverse kids, not exclusively, but, you know, quite a few of them have autistic tendencies, and there's something about playing the drums that really is of benefit to people. And it seems to be specifically drums as opposed to any other instrument. It's got something very special about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've said to people who play the violin, you know, you need understanding parents for that instrument, but you really need understanding parents for a drummer, right?
Yeah, well, I have to say, understanding parents and understanding neighbours. I mean, I used to play, I mean, to my absolute shame, I used to play all hours, practice all hours, and my dad just shut himself in the lounge and sort of put his earphones on and pretended it wasn't happening. But my poor neighbours, they never lasted long. You know, we'd sort of wave them off and think, oh, there's another family that have given up and left, you know, and I used to think, that's probably my fault. They are pretty loud.
Yeah, absolutely. So presumably then you sort of sat in school daydreaming about being on Top of the Pops, and then seemingly the next minute you're getting that call to go on Top of the Pops. I mean, I'm intrigued by something like that. How does that manifest itself, and how does it feel to get that original call to go on something as iconic as Top of the Pops?
Oh, I mean, if you do Top of the Pops, I remember the first time we did it when we were there, I thought, this is just the pinnacle of everything, if nothing else. And actually, when I thought that, I thought nothing else is going to top this, you know, we've arrived. Yeah. And I subsequently saw an interview with Sting, who said the same thing. You know, when obviously they went, you know, the police went on to mega stardom, you know, we didn't, but nonetheless, we had a similar kind of thought in that when you arrive at that, on that programme, I mean, everybody watched it, didn't they? It was just, you know, I did from a very, very young age. It was Thursday night. You again, there was nothing else to do. So what did you do with television? There were only a few channels. You sat and watched Top of the Pops. It was a family thing. Yep. And it was the most incredible moment. And we did it a lot of times, because Crazy Few stuck around for quite a long time. We did it on sort of subsequent singles. I actually then went on to drum for other people. So I was backwards and forwards to Top of the Pops studios quite a lot. And it was just the most magical place. And I dreamt of it from when I first got into a band. And then we arrived and we were there. And I remember when we got the call, we were in Edinburgh at the time on tour. Crazy Few had been released the previous year and didn't get anywhere. And then they re-released it. And we were sitting in the back of a car going to an interview somewhere. And our record company girl said, your midweek is 25, I think, something like that. And you've got Top of the Pops. Yeah. And we got out of the car and we ran up and down wherever we were in Edinburgh, and we were literally just screaming. And then there was a bus that was passing us, and they were looking at us like we were completely mad, because we just went a bit mad, you know, to think, oh my God, we've got Top of the Pops. It was incredible.
I'm intrigued as well, because before you formed Let Loose, how did that dream look like before, when you were a kid? Did you see yourself as kind of Duran Duran or Spandau Ballet or something like Motorhead or something like that? How did you see yourselves?
Well, here's the thing. So our guitarist at the time dreamt of being in Thin Lizzy. So This is the thing about us, about the not so much critics, but generally speaking, we were marketed as a boy band. So we were on the front cover of Smash Hits, and we were doing the road shows and all that sort of thing. But really, to be honest, our guitarist, I mean, he never ever believed he would or ever wanted or desired to be on the front cover of Smash Hits, because he dreamt of being in Thin Lizzy. Yeah. And Led Zeppelin. I mean, that's where he comes from. He used to sleep in ditches at Nebworth, and he found himself in a pop group. And equally, I was into Japan, Bowie, Gary Newman, you know, synthesizers. Mm-hmm. But I did like Duran Duran, and our singer liked Duran Duran and the Beatles. But we wanted to be a pop group. We wanted to be like Duran, maybe, you know, that kind of thing. But it just wasn't the flavour really in the 90s. It was all about, if you're in a pop group it was being in a boy band. And when we got signed, that's just how we were marketed. And we kind of accepted it to a degree, because we thought, well, hopefully people will just listen to music and see that there's something else, and we're all musicians. They'll think of it as, we're slightly different. But I think that was the problem, really. It just jarred a little bit with the fashion at the time.
Yeah. And just one last question about that, because I think I personally I found it intriguing, but I'm sure other people do as well. But does the dream for you, did it live up to its expectations? I mean, I imagine the workload is quite phenomenal.
It did at the time. I mean, it's not quite what you think. When you dream of it when you're a kid, you only ever think of the most amazing sort of aspects, or what you imagine the wonderful sort of aspects of it must be. You're on the television all the time, you're jumping in and out of beautiful cars, you're on aeroplanes all the time. And that is a big part of it. You are ferried from one place to the next in beautiful cars. Everything that you do in the UK, you do abroad, all around Europe, so you are on and off the planes. But that kind of thing wears pretty thin, because you are worked into the ground. Yeah. The schedules are absolutely brutal. And it's probably the same with if you dream of being an actor or any kind of profession like that. It's the outside looking in, you think, oh my God, how glamorous must that be? But actually the reality is, there are glamorous sides to it, but you have to work incredibly hard, because there's always someone behind you that wants to take your place. It's very, very competitive, and you have to work very hard to keep your place. So it's challenging.
Yeah. And I think people break into the music business these days through there's all sorts of different ways. And nowadays people are winning their careers off the back of TV competitions and stuff. So do you embrace that, by the way? Do you find that are you okay with that, or do you think you need to do the graft first and play the pubs and clubs?
I've no quarrel. That's an interesting one. So I've no quarrel with young people wanting to become pop stars. I mean, that's what every kid dreams of. Not every kid, but there's a lot of kids that want to be pop stars. You only got to see the kids queuing up outside X Factor and all those Britain's Got Talent and so on. I do worry about the mental impact it has, and actually I've been working with the British Psychological Society to try and sort of mitigate some of the problems with these very, very young people that queue up for these shows, because it took us 6 years of just touring until we kind of got anywhere. So you sort of cut your teeth, and you gradually get used to the whole process of becoming more and more well known. Whereas with these competitions, you can be working in a bakery 1 minute, or a coffee shop, and then you're playing in front of the world on television, and then these big arenas. I mean, that's if it's successful, and it can last 5 minutes, and then you're back doing a normal job. That can have a real impact on your mental health. So I do really worry about young people going into these, taking up these opportunities through TV. So that's my only problem with that.
Yeah, I've had many people on my show from the X Factor, and they say that it's the other side of that as well. When you're quite famous, because you've been on the telly every Saturday night, but you can't afford to get a taxi, so you have to get the tube everywhere. And so you...
That's right. No, that's so true. That's absolutely true. I mean, the optics of it, like you've just described, it's just glamour. Who wouldn't love to be, adored, if you like, by all these people that are screaming your name, and you're on stage and you're playing at being a pop star. But the reality quite often is, even if you have to write your own songs, or you have to be selling an enormous amount of records to make any money. And there are very, very few. I mean, obviously One Direction were enormous, and they're all multi-millionaires, but for every One Direction, there are thousands of other artists that have had this sort of brief brush with fame, albeit looking incredibly popular and successful, but then it's finished very, very quickly, and they've ended up, having to go back to work, and they're still famous, still sort of recognisable, and it messes with your head. So I do think we need to be extremely careful. And I wouldn't put my children, I mean, my kids are grown up now, but I'm so glad they're not into music at all. In that regard, they don't play any instruments, they're not interested. They love music, but they don't want to perform in any way. Thank goodness.
Yeah. No, I concur with that. I absolutely, yeah. Just one other thing. I read your biggest hit that you've already mentioned, "Crazy for You," which it reached number 2 in the charts here, but was kept off the number 1 spot by Wet's Lovers All Around. Is that true?
It's very true. Yes, yes. It is. We were label mates, so they were signed to Phonogram, same as us. So we used to see Marty and the boys quite regularly. I mean, we went to their rehearsal studio and we used to chat with them and so on. And to be honest, they were fed up with the song as well, you know, because they were there for weeks on end. We were at number 2 for 5 weeks behind them, and we were selling really, really well. We were outselling the rest of the top 10, but we couldn't, you know, nudge them off the number 1 spot. So we used to say, can you please pull this record so we can actually sort of we just replace them, you know.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't have it. So, yeah, unfortunately, they did stop us. Old Marshy Mello, as we like to lovingly refer to him, was in the way for quite a long time.
Yeah. And in hindsight, of course, I mean, that's it's either bad timing or really bad luck. I think if you're saying you had the same management, I'll leave the jury out on that one. But it makes a nice anecdote for the grandkids. Should we say that?
It does, yeah. I mean, it does come up quite a lot in conversation because absolutely everybody of a certain age remembers Love Is All Around, you know, because it just stuck around for so long, didn't it? I don't know if it still holds the record, or is it Bryan Adams? It's one of the two. I can't remember now.
That's right.
But everybody remembers it. So, you know, it's quite a good opener when we say, well, actually, we were number 2 when that was number 1, and it sort of, you know, starts a whole conversation about that whole period of time. But I mean, it was a very, very exciting time to be at Top of the Pops. We used to go there with a single to promote it, and then we'd be on a subsequent single, and Wet 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 would still be at number 1.
Right.
I mean, you know, it was crazy.
Yeah. It reminded me of Wham's Last Christmas, kept off the top spot by Do They Know It's Christmas. And, this year, or last year indeed, they got to number 1. So there's still time for you. Don't worry about it.
I know. My brother-in-law's in that video, actually, which is bizarre.
What, Last Christmas?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he grew up with George and Andrew and so on, and, he ended up marrying my sister, which was quite bizarre.
Fantastic. Oh, that's a better anecdote. Keep that one.
I'll keep that one. Yeah, I'll use that one. It's in my armoury.
Yeah, brilliant. So anyway, Let Loose, you're back together, and it's the festival season's quickly upon us. Do you enjoy doing the festivals? Is it something you enjoy doing?
I do enjoy doing them, actually, yeah. I mean, it's a lot different to what it was back in the 90s when we used to do it. I mean, again, it was all conveyor belt in the 90s. You know, you'd be rushed to one place, and then you had a very sort of slim opportunity to enjoy it because you're always thinking of the next place you're going to be ferried to. But there's a lot more relaxed now. And they're great fun, you know, when we're on stage and Crazy For You starts up, and I think that opening sort of piano line is quite recognisable. I mean, it did get a lot of airplay back in the day, and generally speaking, our age group is in the audience because they're kind of 90s festivals and so on. Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing, you know, to see everybody singing that song back at you. You know, it's a really lovely moment. And generally speaking, we've had some lovely comments about, you know, us playing, and usually people are quite surprised because they still think, okay, what's this band going to be like, and you know, are they going to come on and dance and whatever, and then, you know, we've got drums and guitars, and it's actually quite rocky, you know, some of our songs were quite sort of guitar driven and so on. Yeah. So usually the feedback from last year has been really positive, so we're just hoping that, you know, we can change a few minds with the gigs that we're doing now, but they're great fun. Great.
Because it is that thing of winning the crowd over, I suppose, for everybody, because nobody's got their regular fans, have they? It's not like a regular gig, so you've got to win somebody over, I suppose. And
you've got to try, yeah. You've really got to try. You can't just go on there and just play, sort of almost play by numbers. You know, you just sort of think, well, I'm just going to play the set and then we're going to leave, and thanks very much. You know, we're still kind of hungry to convince people that, you know, we're entertaining, because this is essentially what you're doing. You know, you are paid, you are there to entertain that crowd, you know. And part of that is to try and win them over, so they go, yeah, you know, I really enjoyed that set. And if we do get any kind of feedback from the audience, you know, sometimes they get in touch through socials and they say, you know, we really enjoyed that. It was quite an eye-opener. We never expected you to sound like that. Yeah. That for me, that's a massive compliment, and that's one of the things that drives me to do it, you know, for people to enjoy the set.
Absolutely. And it's Brit Fest that you're coming on the 6th of July. That's in Altrincham. It's a hell of a lineup on this.
I know.
Do you get to see other acts, or are you kind of in and out?
You tend to be in and out, but I'm going to try my best to stick around, because a lot of my heroes actually are playing that from when I was a kid. You know, it's quite eclectic. A lot of times we do just, you know, pure 90s shows. This with Eternal, you know, we've got one coming up with Bewitched and so on. So it's a lot of the 90s sort of acts. But this is eclectic, isn't it? It's really like 10cc, UB40, Go West. I mean, I love Republica. So I really want to see them.
I think Chesney Hawkes is on the night you're on as well.
Chesney's great. Yeah, I've not seen him since the 90s. Gosh, we've got something in common because we worked quite closely with Nick Kershaw, and I think he's really good friends with Nick.
Right.
So, but I've not seen him in decades. So I really hope that we can stick around and watch some of the other acts because it's a great lineup.
Fantastic. Well, it's the Brit Fest, 6th of July, as I say, in Altrincham there, Ashley Hall. Lee Murray from Let Loose. It's been an absolute treat to speak to you, my mate. Thanks ever so much for that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Likewise, mate.
And all the best going forward. And I might get over to Altrincham for this one. It's a hell of a festival. I love the sound of it.
Yeah, we'll do. Come backstage, mate, and say hello.
Will do. You take care of yourself. Cheers.
Thanks, man. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Lee Murray from Let Loose then on the Stage and Screen show will be performing at the Brit Fest. I will give you some deets in a mo. So the 4th, 5th and 6th of July will be this year's the Brit Fest over at Ashley Hall in Altrincham. For tickets, www.thebritfest.co.uk www.thebritfest.co.uk. Absolutely fantastic show this year. Go check it out.
This is the heartbeat of Wrexham. Wrexham Premier Radio brings you the music that moves that community. Stay connected.